great introduction. I don't think there's any more I have to say. Thank you all. It was great. I'm not going to give you a life story today. I'm not going to give you 5 bullets on the secret to business. I'm going to give you a vision and then an invitation. This is not a drill. Before we leave today, if you like the idea, I want you to be connecting with each other, and we're actually going to begin this. I'm taking on suburbs. I'm saying suburbs are obsolete. We shouldn't be building them anymore. We shouldn't be building shopping malls. We shouldn't be building industrial parks. Clear it out of the way. And to do that, we're going to turn real estate development upside down. And I'll try and cover some of that today. So what we're saying is our intent will be quality of life. That's what we're going after. But it's a really tough question to say. What is quality of life? And part of the dialogue that occurs is I don't come up with those answers. I come up with the questions, and you come up with the answers. So what is quality of life? Now, one of the most powerful ones is something called the popsicle index. If you had a 6-year-old, so we'll be hypothetical, how many people, hold up your hands, would let that 6-year-old walk downtown to buy an ice block today? Now, I have to say, on Waiheke Island, I would. Would you look around and see how many hands there are? Not many. Now, let's look 50 years ago. How many people feel it would have been okay for a 6-year-old to walk downtown to get that ice block? That's the popsicle index. That says there's something seriously wrong. So the first principle of quality of life is that everybody holds up their hand in that village and says, I have no problem with my 6-year-old walking down the street alone. The next one is economic security, lifelong economic security. We make it very, very difficult. I don't know why we do, but we make it really difficult. Next thing we have is it should never be boring. People are either distracted or bored. Create a quality of life where there is a real cultural enrichment. What is a village? It is not an eco-village. It is not co-housing. It's not a gated community, because all those places have like-minded people. This is a replacement for suburbs, which means left wing, right wing, people who fly with 2 wings. Now, what are the elements that are different? Because this is important. If you're a developer, it is your responsibility, or whoever does this, the village organizing to do, is to create a local economy. And this is going to be a real big one. 20% of the money has to come in from the outside. Almost everybody in this room is a money importer. And then if you set up the beer tavern, you are circulating that money. The second one is that it has an enriched cultural and social atmosphere, and we do intentional things, things like creating artist guild halls, so that it is permanently culturally and socially enriched. The third is, yes, you are right, it is big. You have to have a critical mass of 5,000 to 10,000 people in order to make one of these things work. At 1,200 people, you can support one general store. Now, when I got a watch band, I'm talking with the guy who's replacing the watch band. And he said, you know, when we were trained, we were told you need 5,000 people in order to support a watchmaker. So then when I talked to the bookstore to see if they wanted to carry the book, they said, we need 7,500 in order to support a bookstore. So there is something called critical mass, and this is going to be one of the important things is everybody has to move in at once, because if the watchmaker moves in and you're in stage 1 and there are only 1,000 people, you're not going to survive. So the last one then is that there are no cars within. Everything is within a 10-minute walk, sort of. 10-minute if you go straight from point A to point B, but 2 hours if you follow it in a labyrinth and go around. So let's start looking at the details. Surrounding the village, if you have farmland, what we want to have happen is the excess profits, and there will definitely be, and I can't talk about that in 30 minutes, but certainly read about it in the book, is that you buy the development rights from the farmers in a 10-mile radius. And then you contract with the farmers to provide your food permanently at your standard. And you say, we're going to pay you this much for apples. If the market drops down on apples, we still pay you a fixed price because you need to make a living and you need to make it off of us. So the farm, if it's available, you buy the rights so it doesn't turn into suburban sprawl. Basically, what you've got are the village walls, and around it you have a green space. It's a way to have real experience rather than that cute little postage stamp park that you take the dogs into. So there are areas that if there's native bush, keep it there. Let it be wild. If it's desert, let it be wild. Have other areas that are playing fields. Interestingly, most developments now don't do cemeteries. Hello, life is birth to death. This is for all range, so put the cemetery in. Within the village walls, the gray lines show neighborhoods. The whole thing looks like a jigsaw. And what happens is we walk the land, figure out where the plazas go, and there need to be multiple plazas because that's where you get the character and the authenticity. You have a noise overlay, so you've got noisy zones like next to the industrial area. That's called the youth plaza. And it's got outdoor rock bands and the whole thing. And then you've got the one way in the other distance. I don't like noise. Thanks a lot. I'll walk to them when I want to get a hit. So let's look at these plazas. There are 20 or 30 of them. And around them are 200 heads of household, we call it, roughly. That's called a neighborhood. And those people will actually do the design themselves. They're going to create what that plaza looks and feels like. What's on the plaza? Workplaces are absolutely key. If you buy into this concept and you start building your village, your office is going to be on the plaza. And it has to have big windows so you can see the kids and they can see the role models of you. Okay? The next thing you've got, of course, is the usual. You have to have the cafes, the pubs, this sort of thing. And it has the al fresco dining. It's a place, as we saw with the other picture of the people, where all generations meet without an appointment. And more importantly, for teenagers, it's a place you can be a teenager without getting hurt. It's getting more and more dangerous to be a teenager. It also has settled work. So when you get to a certain age and you want to work for the love of it, I mean, every village is going to need that guy with a German accent and the big beard who makes toys. And then, of course, when you get to that age when life really does start breaking down, it has the nursing bed facilities on the plaza. So when you are wheelchair-bound, people know who you are and they don't speak to you like you're a kid and everybody's screaming in a madhouse. We treat people now when they get old the way we used to have leper colonies. So this is birth to death. Important on it are the artist guild halls. And those artist guild halls, we don't decide what they are. We just simply take some of the funds, and instead of building the golf course, which is what you do in a gated golfing community, we fund the artist guild halls. So if we have the opera singers here and they say, we want to have an opera guild hall, then we say, cool, what do you need? And they say, well, we need rehearsal rooms. So we fund that. They run it. And then we say, right, now you need 25 homes that are for your artists, and we're going to get those priced so they can afford them. As low as $60,000, because that's what the artist benefit says. You can buy a home in New Zealand if you're a solo artist on the benefit. So the only deal is when you go to sell it, you got to sell it to another artist. This guarantees the artists never leave the community. You also have that for teachers, and you have that for other essential workers that otherwise people are going to say, this is so great, they're going to drive them out. It's called gentrification. So we have 20 to 30% of the houses have these parallel real estate market restrictions on them so you keep the glue of your community. Now, the Artists Guild Hall is more than just artists. Everybody in this room is a member of the creative class. How many people have read Richard Florida's books on the creative class? Highly recommend you read it. It's fantastic stuff, and he talks about why you in this room are the most important people to any economy, and he proves it. You may find that we have a Thought Leaders Guild Hall, and I put that out to you, maybe one in each city. Education. It's really simple. No separate campus. The village is the school. Every plaza has 4 or 5 classrooms. The Artists Guild Halls have classrooms in them. Okay, how do we get there? What do we need to do? Now, the first of these is that all villagers are identified before beginning. You're going to design the village, so we need to know who you are. You're actually going to design your own plaza, supported by the architects and the professionals. But in order to achieve authenticity, you have to implant your personality. If you look at the most beautiful places in the world, absolutely, you'll find they were done by people who weren't professionals. Those timelessly beautiful is the soul, the heart, the spirit of the person implanted forever on that building. It's done, however, in collaboration. You've got 200 other heads of household, so if you really go off the wall, you have to work that out with them. We provide a structured environment on a 100-to-1 scale model where you're physically moving buildings around. Now, we also have the second one of these, in which all government approvals are in 3 months. When we begin the 100-to-1 scale modeling, we say we want to have the government officials who would normally review this after the fact, and we give them 3 cards. They're in the room. They're not part of the process. They're like the referee. And they say, yes, you can do that. No, you can't do that. The government's going to get a $1 billion rateable valuation. They're going to get $100 million a year in new jobs, and we don't want them to build new roads and don't upgrade the utilities. They're going to be very excited about this. The condition is they work with us so we don't have years of delay. The next one is all buildings are constructed in 12 months. I'm not even going to go there in this conversation because that would take another half hour to talk about. But it is possible. Come up to me afterwards and I'll talk about it. So, remember that valley I talked about? Well, we began dialogue with that local government and we were making submissions and they weren't getting it. And then this came out. And this is not a book. This is a key. See, I put that on it to remember it. This is a key. And what happened is the guy who was working with the land there bought 20 copies of the book before Christmas. He said, send them down to me, and what I'm going to do is give them away as Christmas presents. Well, the mayor and the CEO said, we'll take a look at them before Christmas. They came back 7 days later, and they said, Bob, you've got it. We now understand what you want to do. We're going to change the rules. We're going to do it. And I'm not going to tell you where it is. But that's what we want to have happen. Now, who's going to do the villages first? It's really up to you here. The conversations I've had suggest there's going to be huge support in Australia. And it's going to be the people in this room right now, when we go to lunch break, who are going to start connecting. And we want you to do 3 things. The first is we want you to buy a carton of keys, a carton of these, and we want you to give them away to key influencers. These are the people who are going to make it happen. At that point, what we want you to do is form a village circle, and a village circle is a group of people in a region. So there'll be the Sydney Village Circle and the Melbourne, and they'll be separate. And it says, I want to call a village into being in this region. And it's up to you. You're going to form a charitable trust or some other organizational structure. I don't know what it is in Australia. And then we're going to work to support you. We want to see them happen now. We don't want to see them happen in 5 or 10 years. So this is not a talk fest. This is real. This is not a drill. Thank you very much. I'll look forward to talking to you afterwards. Thank you.